Welcome, everyone, to Self-Care You podcast. I'm your host, Sharon, the number one self-caregiver in the world. And this podcast is the intersection of self-care, advocacy, and compassion for self-caregivers. Welcome. And so, for this episode, we have a guest. Lamar Smith, and he's going to tell you all about himself. And he has a wonderful story. He's doing some wonderful things, and so you are going to enjoy this episode.
Hello.
Yeah, so welcome, Lamar. So tell us about yourself because, when I'll say this in our Facebook group for podcasts. You put a post out there that really caught my eye, and so I'm like, oh yes, people definitely need to hear all about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, yeah. So the post that you're referring to, I had just put out there like I'm, a father to two girls. Well, I'll be 36 this year. No, in a couple months. I've been doing martial arts for the past it'd be 6 years in April, and I've been married for it'll be 8 years in March. And I know I mentioned that I was like I guess you want to say an advocate for mental health, men's mental health, because it's something that I deal with every day. So yeah, with just with that and just with my martial arts training and everything, it definitely helped me with that. So that's why I was like, I saw a lot of people that's doing podcasts, which I started one myself. I go in a little bit detail about that later, but one of the things I always wanted to talk about was like mental health, you know, especially in men, because I'm gonna be real with it, especially black men. It's a taboo topic. It's like, growing up, you're not necessarily supposed to express your feelings or have emotions and stuff like that. So now we're at that age where we can. It's still like it's being broadcasted, but it's still getting a bad light at the same time. So it's like, oh, you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be this. You're supposed to be that. And it's like, no, we're still human. So I definitely wanted to like, bring more awareness to that.
And this is so true. And I'm glad you said that. Because I have a men's platform, and actually it's on pause right now because I'm working on some other things, and it's
Mm-hmm.
called Self Care for Black Men, but I'm rebranding it as Self Care for Black Fathers because that seemed to
Mm.
be where my focus seemed to be a little bit more. But
Mhm.
everything you just said is so true, and that's what I found too. In that, when I've had conversations with men and dug a little deeper, a lot of them would say the exact same thing you just said. Of course, it's not all, and some men are able to find, some circles where they're able to talk by themselves, among themselves, or on women platforms and things like that. But a
Mhm.
lot of times, one of the things I know that they say a lot is, let's say they're in a relationship, and even I've heard of them say, even with other men. So let's just say relationships, because relationships are just relating to people and yourself. And
Right.
that when they are vulnerable or they're telling someone what they're going through, is that they get this backlash. It was like you say, it's like a weakness. It's like, what's wrong with you? You're not strong enough. Or like if their
Definitely.
relationship with a female, it's more like it ends up getting used as a weapon, down the road when they have, a disagreement or something, it would be brought up. And
Yeah.
so it is really important for blacks, and especially for black men, to know that they're not alone, that there's help out there. And I always want to say there's help out there in different ways, and it takes time to find what you need, because talk therapy isn't for everyone. Talk therapy can be very helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm one to say, and I've seen it, to say too that sometimes talk therapy may not be helpful for some. And as people are on their healing journey, you get to decide what's best for you, because it's not for everyone. Because the more that I've learned about the mind, body, and spirit, there's different things that can be done and sometimes need to be done in order to process those emotions and feelings. And processing isn't always about talking, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. So tell me a little bit about like when it comes to the mental health advocacy, because you're saying that you're dealing with your on mental health experience. You can, share as much as you would like about your own experience, and then how that became an advocacy for you.
Oh, okay. So, oh, I'm trying to figure out when this actually started, but it's been a few years. Back and forth with, I go to therapy and whatnot, and I can't, like you said, it can help. It definitely can help because you get a chance to be vulnerable when when in some places that you can't be vulnerable. You don't feel judged and whatnot. But also at the same time, it's kind of you become very hesitant because you're talking to a complete stranger. It's like this guy or this person won't know, or this person won't understand, so you'd be kind of like, very selective in what you say, but you'd be mad at yourself because it's like, damn, I wanted to say so much more, but it's like I don't know
Mm,
this person. So that's a lot of stuff that I've dealt with, getting used to conversating and being talking to therapists and whatnot. Because yeah, like we said, being a young black man, you're not supposed to convey emotions or feelings, or if you were in a relationship, 9 times out of 10 when you become vulnerable, that's used as a weapon, a weapon against you. So it's like you become so, like, locked off to the point where it's like you just brood in everything that you're dealing with, because you don't have that outlet, you don't have that escape, and that just leads to so much more, bad things down the line, from, like, substance abuse, suicide, because the rates for suicide in black men is skyrocketing because of that. We don't have that outlet, we don't have that support group, or we don't have whatever we need to just decompress, because we have to go out there and fight the world, and then we have to come home and just compress all that, because we have to be strong for, because I have 2 girls, so I have to be strong for them. I have, my mother, I help take care of, and I have my wife, so it's like it's hard, it's really, really, really difficult, if you don't have that outlet, whatever it is, a positive outlet, I should say. And that's where, like, jujitsu comes in. At a lot of your listeners may not know what that is, so just kind of give you a little, I guess you want to say, history and what that is. It's a form of martial art. It's a self defense. When it was created for the smaller, weaker person to be able to help defend themselves against someone bigger and stronger. Because in this martial art, it's a lot of, joint manipulation. So we attack wrists, shoulders, ankles, elbows, and stuff like that, chokes and whatnot. But it's all to be able to subdue someone bigger than you. So when I started training, this was like I said, like 6 years ago. I've been training at my same school that I've been training with. I'm actually assistant instructor there now. So just to kind of give you, like, how committed I've been. But from training to the people that I've met, and to the people that I've met doing my own podcast, which is the Talk Your Jits podcast, um it's therapy in itself, because you find someone that you're like-minded, you have that one specific thing in common, and you're just so happen to talk about it, but it also, um ties into your personal life. Because I've said this on my show, I've said this to so many people, that if I haven't found jujitsu for my mental stability, I wouldn't be here having this conversation. I talk about
Mm,
that a lot, a lot.
mhm,
So, having friends that's, that post on Facebook about whatever they're going through, and it's like they're just like at that end. I'm like, dude, just come train with me. You need to find that
mm,
outlet. You need to get that out. And, they'd be hesitant about it, but I'm like, just give me a week. If you could just consistently train, it would just like just 2-3 days. If you just give me consistent days, I promise you, you'll start seeing the benefits and you'll start be feeling so much better. Because yeah, I train almost like 4 days a week. So
okay.
yeah, it definitely helped a lot with my anxiety, depression. I do have ADHD, so it definitely helps me with that because when it comes to jujitsu, it's a mental thing. So like you can't go into this thinking about everything else because in a sense you're fighting for your life. So
Hmm.
it's like, okay,
This is
am
true.
am I going to worry about, so it's like, just for example, if you're in the street and you're in an altercation, are you going to worry about that person in front of you, or are you going to worry about this bill that's 2 weeks past due? And that's the kind of mindset you have to be in to do jujitsu, because you have to focus on yourself, you have to focus on your opponent. There's a lot of aspects that you have to focus on, that anything outside of that is going to get you quote unquote killed. So applying that of what I've been learning into like everyday life has been like way better, honestly, way better than what therapy has ever taught me. I'm
Hmm.
not excluding I'm not excluding therapy, because yeah, some people can talk out their feelings or talk out their emotions. I'm more of an action person, so I need to get my hands dirty. So doing this has definitely been that outlook. I mean, that outreach I've been looking for. So I just been big into that because I'm like, I know how much it helped me in this past 6 years, dealing with personal stuff, family, marriage, parenting and work, and just how society has become over these past X amount of years. It's
Yeah.
just been that, like, okay, I can breathe. So yeah.
And I really love that last statement that you made, that you can breathe, because that's one of the
Hmm.
things, like even before I even understood anything about breathing, I used to always tell people that it was just instinctive for me. Again, I didn't even have any understanding of it. And that's one thing I often tell people. Just in general, no one needs to be diagnosed with anything, because that's the thing. When it comes to mental health challenges, we all experience it on some level. It may not
Hmm.
always be a diagnose, but we all deal with it because we deal with something personally. A family member being sick, a family member having medical conditions or mental
Yeah.
health challenges, or someone passing away, someone, separating, or a breakup, or work issues. And so all of those, are mental health challenges. And then you were saying something else too, like like-minded people. And the
Hmm.
thing is, when it comes to us as humans, I mean, we are hardwired for connection. And so I'm pretty sure by you being in that atmosphere, not just, someone who may be experiencing the mental health challenge, but just, the martial arts in and of itself, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure with those two combinations, that it helps, because there's something about when someone can have, at least a basic understanding or some sort of an understanding what you may be experiencing,
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure it's almost kind of like having connection and someone who can relate. It does a whole lot. And then the other thing that you said too, that I don't think that people realize, and this is one of the reasons that we tell people, I mean, even when it comes to anxiety, but especially depression, is to move. Because
Yeah.
you can talk, and I'm not sure if the mental health system as a whole is becoming, because I'm seeing the shift, but it's just not there yet. Do they really understand how the mind, the body, and the spirit really work, interconnected, and all of that?
Hmm.
Because, one of the reasons we tell people to move, so you can move that energy.
Yeah.
Emotions are energy. I mean, even, anything that you're thinking about, is those chemicals in your body, that goes through different things. And then by moving, you can change those. Talking can change it a little bit, but moving helps it a whole lot. And so everything you just said, I mean, it's kind of like it's a mouthful, and I really hope that the listeners are really listening,
Yeah.
because I mean, it's like, does it, like, for some people you can say it can completely resolve what they're going through, and for others it's definitely something that helps you go through, because when it comes to life, things are, I don't want to say always coming down, but things are coming down. So by
Hmm.
having a self-care practice, is really beneficial, and that's something that I advocate for. Is like, having different people on this podcast, and then when I'm out in the community, to say, hey, if you're going to investigate in something, definitely investigate in being curious about how to be well, and try all of these different things. Because if you're willing to do medication, if you're willing to do therapy, because even with both of those things, I've seen it firsthand. For some people, it can allow a lot of people to be stable. But
Yeah.
for a lot of people, they don't. And even for those who are stable, we still need to exercise and eat healthy and have connections and move, and all of that good stuff. So I really do appreciate you, sharing all of this, wonderful gems, so that people know, one, that there's hope and there's
Oh
something
yeah.
that they can do. I don't think people understand, in being well, you really have to do something.
Cause like to me, you know, your like your mind is obviously the strongest thing you have in your body. It controls everything. So all that, yeah, you were saying earlier, when you think about anxiety, when you think about depression, when you think about yeah, all that worry and stuff, that's still, yeah, like you said, that's still some type of energy that you've been built up for how many days or weeks. So it may not necessarily be good energy, but it's an energy within itself. So when you sitting
Mhm.
here, when you're thinking like, okay, I need to find a way to get this out, you have to not only find a outlet for your mind, but you have to also find an outlet for your body, because yeah, your mind conjures all this stuff, but it's just your body what's hold on and stores it. It stores all this negative energy. So because I was talking to my wife the other day, went to the gym, and I blinked, I was going like 4 hours, and she's like, how, she's like, you just leaving, you just come back from the gym. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you realize how long you've been gone? I'm like, no, but what's up? Like, she's like, how can you be in the gym that long? And I never really thought about it, but I think about this. I was like, if you can sit on your phone, or you can sit in your self worry and self pity for 2, 3 hours, sometimes even longer, because you do it you do it on your drive to work, you do it at work, you do it at home, you do it when you're spending time with loved ones. If you can spend all that time mentally just beating yourself down, just go beat yourself up at the gym. I promise you'll feel better.
Oh man, that's powerful. Oh,
Cause I'm like, cause the gym is the cheapest therapy you got. Like, it's okay, you can spend $20 a month, going, getting a membership at Planet Fitness, or you can find my gym. It's it's like $125 a month, but the benefits that comes with it, because you have that outlet, you have that everything that you need. Like, you have the outlet, you have that family atmosphere, you have this bond that you connect with these people that you train with. Because just like how you were saying earlier, when it comes to like the people that I've met on my show, I've never seen these people or knew these people existed until I started this podcast. I've
mm,
talked to over 40 people who do jujitsu, from people who just started to people who's been doing this for like 20 plus years, from people who's in Michigan and in Detroit or in the surrounding area, all the way to like Spain and UK and all these other people that's in that same boat as me. And we're like family now. Like we all talk on
That's
Facebook.
wonderful.
I can message one of them right now. We can have a full blown conversation like we've been talking for like 3 years, and we only talk for like an hour and a half maybe. But yeah, we all have that same common thing because we always talk about that on my shows, like how much better you feel after going to the gym or training for 2-3 hours. Like yeah, your body's beat up, but you feel so mentally better afterwards. So.
Yeah. And they go hand in hand. And I don't think
Mhm.
that people really realize how much, like in our society in general, and like I say, it's changing. But they treat the body separately and they treat, the mind and the brain separately. And but they're not, for a lot of the medical conditions, really, a lot of them come from emotional, distress and worry and things. Sometimes it can be like from decades of
Mhm.
stress. And one thing that you said, regarding this, like regarding going to the gym, of how beneficial that is. And the thing that I want to say is, I discovered myself and I started telling other people, it's like, wow, going to the gym, especially when it comes to strength training in itself really helps people. I call it's a easy and gentle, even though people may not agree with it, but it's an easy and gentle way to build resilience and overcome adversity.
Oh
Because I
yeah.
remember
Oh
one
yeah.
time, huh?
No, I was just agreeing, like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I remember one time when I had a personal trainer, I was on the leg press and it was much, much heavier than I've ever did. And I'm like, what's going on? And as I was doing it at that very moment, that's where I came up with that concept because, at that moment it was adversity. And then I was like, okay, okay, okay. Then I was, building resilience. And so, like when it comes to martial arts, when it comes to yoga, meditation, still training, anything I would say where there may be some resistance or may seem hard, they really are in alignment with certain aspects of our life, and they really do help build resilience and overcome adversity. Because if we're not able to do that extra rep, then when it comes to life and when it comes to something hard, it's going to be difficult. When that storm, it could be a hiccup. It
Mhm.
could be a hiccup, because if everybody is different from what it means. But let's just say if something is a hiccup, that some people can have a hard time with the hiccup, and Lord knows, don't have to let it be multiple hiccups. You know
Ooh,
what I'm
Lord.
saying?
Yes.
Even when it comes to the storms of life, it's like it can, like drizzle a little bit, and some people have a hard time with that. And I'm not taking away the things that have happened to people, but the main thing that I'm really trying to say is that there are so many different ways that we all can really use self-care to when it comes to resistance, when it
Mhm.
comes to overcoming adversity, when it comes to building resilience. And they'll and they're and I call them easy and gentle because we can control them to a certain extent, or
Uh-huh.
we can go all in. Because, like, for example, one of my friends, they've been through a lot. I mean, a lot. If anything that shouldn't happen to a person happened to this person.
Mhm.
And they do a whole lot of different things. But one of the things that they did, it came to, I guess you say, building endurance, strength, and everything, where they said in their mind, not just in their mind, but they actually did it, let's say 1,000 push-ups or a
Mhm.
1,000 sit-ups. So just think, if you do that in one setting, I think initially it was a build-up and then they were eventually able to do it in one setting, you
Yeah.
are going to go through something. And they talked about, the benefits that they had. So that goes hand in hand when we're just talking about, because emotionally they went through a whole lot in doing it, but it helped push out a lot of emotions too.
Yeah. And like so a couple of days ago, no. So sometime last month, one of the guys I train with, he's like my brother. We started like a quote unquote book club. So we just kind of been reading stuff that's kind of like we can incorporate their stories into how we function in, jujitsu. So one of the people that we've read was David Goggins.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm
yeah.
familiar with him.
So if you don't know who that is, you need to know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
So he got two books out, one called Can't Hurt Me, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe the other book is I think it's called Never Finished.
Okay.
And so basically like the first book, Can't Hurt Me, was him explaining his, how he grew up, like what he's been through, because he's been to the army, he's been like, been in the Marines, he's set all these records, he's just excuse my language, but he's a badass if I've ever seen one. And
Mm-hmm.
he's still doing the same stuff that he did in his first book. He was talking about in his second book, 40 plus years old, still running 4K marathons. So, the stuff that he talked about, and the stuff that he had to overcome mentally and physically that he's been able to do has been really inspiring, because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like we live in our heads, because
Mm-hmm.
we have so much time where we're just there. Like you said, we're driving, so we're stuck in traffic. So, we're thinking. We're sitting down eating food. We're thinking. We're always thinking. So, and we put all these, these doubts and worries and stuff in our heads. And one thing that I notice when I tell people, like, yeah, man, you should go to the gym, or you should do this, or you should do that, or those people that has those mindsets of like, yeah, I would really love to work out, or I really love to get up and do this. And it's another book that we've read called The Alchemist. I'm trying to remember the author. I think his name is like Paulo something. I can't remember the last name. I could be wrong on that. But long story short, the book was about this shepherd who kept having these dreams about this treasure that he's supposed to find in Africa. I mean, in Egypt. I'm sorry. And the whole book was basically explaining him on this journey. Like he was a shepherd. He taught himself, how to read and all this stuff, and he did whatever he could to get to this point where this dream was kept nagging him about finding this treasure. And one of the things that I took from the book was, that was a really big eye opener, is when we look at stuff that we want to do, like for example, like you say, oh yeah, I want to go to the gym, I want to get in shape, I want to look a certain way. We look at our future selves in our present moments. So we thinking like, yeah, I would love to have that ideal body, but we're thinking of how can I handle that right now? And we like, well, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to the gym. I don't know how to do XYZ. Yeah, no shit. Who does? Like you have to start. Like the journey is more important than that final destination. Cause in the book he was like, yeah, I'm doing all this to find this treasure, and I keep running to all these roadblocks and blah 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 blah. Maybe it's not meant for me to find. And one of his, I guess you want to say, his mentors, he was talking in the book, is like, yeah, you can be comfortable where you at right now. Like you can accept the fact that, like, yeah, I've made it to Egypt, I almost got my treasure, I found better, I guess you want to say good stuff along the way. But that main thing that you've been looking for is going to nag you for the rest of your life, and it's going to get to the
Mm-hmm.
point where it's going to be a little bit too late, and it's going to haunt you until your last days. And I'm like, that's so true. Like we sit here, it's like, yeah, I want to do this, I want to be XYZ, but you don't want to put that work in, because it's hard for you to accept the weight of that success with how you are now, because you feel like, I'm not going to be able to do it. But if you just work towards it, you'll be able to learn and grow for it. Like you're saying, like, when it comes to martial arts, when it comes to weightlifting, you have to focus on that stuff. You have to learn this stuff properly. Like you have to have your body a certain way so you don't hurt yourself. So all your focus goes on to perfecting your squats, or how to actually lift weights, or how to actually deadlift and stuff like that, to the point where that's all you think about now. Just like with me, like I've been so adamant about fine tuning my martial art. That's all I do now. Every single day, from sun up to sundown, I'm watching videos, I'm watching clips of me, me practicing and just talking about jujitsu with the people I talk to every single day. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. A lot of people are not ready for that work, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into a realization that I had recently, in the fact that when it comes to, I was talking to a few people, and I was saying, if there's anything that we can teach children, like if you're a parent, if you're a caregiver, a guardian, and even when it comes to ourselves, there's a couple, I would say the main two things, and maybe three, but the main two things to teach individuals is discipline, how to stick with something even if you don't want to. And
Mm-hmm.
when I really thought about it, school taught us that. At least they were good for something.
I know, right?
I never thought about it in that way until I thought about that. And then the other thing is teaching individuals, however you want to word it, but how to accept feedback, how to deal with rejection, and the word no. They kind of go hand. They kind of go, in there, like in saying no and in receiving no. Because
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to life, I mean, we're going to be dealing with all kind of things, you know what I'm saying? And we need to be able to accept no. We need to be able to accept feedback and not think that someone is being critical, because it's all to help to make us better. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes, it may just be the other person, but all in all, when we're able to navigate through that, it make us better. And then we
Mm-hmm.
don't have any resentment or any ill feelings, or whether it's internal or external temper tantrums and stuff like that. Because even when I, have come across certain experiences, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I learned certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I look at my life, because generally, it's been a generally good life. That's okay. There probably were not any opportunities to really point out this, that, and the other. But I think that's where it's time to have conversations, or you see something in society, because
Mm-hmm.
it's really important. Because when I look at the world as a whole, that's what we're dealing with, not being able to discipline, kind of what you were saying, not being
Mm-hmm.
able to focus and go that extra mile to do that. And then the other part that I see as a whole is that people get their feelings hurt, you know what I mean? And so
Everyone's
we
very
need to
sensitive
learn how to deal
nowadays.
with that and move on, and
Yeah.
not take it personal.
Yeah. Exactly. That's and that's one of the things that I'm teaching my daughter now, because she's 6. No, I'm sorry. She's 7. Yeah, she's 7. And she's one of my students. She's one of my students in the kids class. And you know, I employ everyone to, like, get your kid into, a martial art, and not just stick them in that. Really watch what your kid is doing, because if this is something that, that they have a passion for, they're going to stick with it for a very long time, and it's going to have a lot of benefits along the way. Because with the jutsu, like, you have to learn, we have certain rules that we follow. um and there's a lot of movements that we have to, be able to understand to properly do jujitsu. So that's where the discipline comes in at. So, like, my daughter, at this point now, she know how I run my class. When we start, she takes off running her laps, she do all her drills and everything else, and I don't have to say anything, because she knows. So,
Hmm.
we've had conversations where she might be working a specific technique, and she just not getting it. So she's like breaking down crying. So it's like, okay,
Hmm.
as your instructor, I'm going to encourage you. I'm gonna say, hey, we don't always get it right. We never get it right. Even as long as I've been training, there's still stuff I don't get right. But as her father, I'm like, hey, you got to suck it up. I'm not trying to be like, be super tough, but sometimes you have to kind of just, bite down and just do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be all funs and roses and sunshines every single day. You're gonna hit that brick wall. You're gonna hit those moments where you just can't properly get that, get that technique down, or whatever situation you're dealing with, now or in the future. But this way you'll be able to handle it, because you're gonna be like, I'm gonna have your back regardless. I'm going to, coach you like, hey, if this is what you want to do, you got to do it. Like, well, I can't get it right. Well, let's stay here until we do.
Mm-hmm.
There is no giving up. There is no quitting. No, like, we're gonna stay here until we get it right. So she's
Yeah.
starting to grasp that concept, and I'm like, if anything, that's what I want you to learn.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's
Hmm.
where the practice really comes into play. And that's with anything in life. Because I know, like for myself, I'm transitioning, let's just say out of corporate world into entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
And the thing that I'm learning, and I have to remind myself, Sharon, I'm learning something new, and it's to be able to stick to things, learning something from the business perspective. It's completely different if you never run anything yourself. And there's so many different concepts and things like that, but the whole point is to stick with it, be patient with yourself, and to really just keep going. Because sometimes people do want to kind of give up
Hmm.
on themselves and things like that. And at this moment, I want to kind of just introduce, I say, our sponsor, which is well, should I say, my
Hmm.
company, and that we do sell merchandise on Shopify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can see where to go. And so it's Self Care You, and that's YOU on Shopify. We have a Self Caregiver cup, coffee cup as well as a T-shirt too. And there are other merchandise on there. And so as you're taking care of yourselves, and especially a lot of times people are so focused on taking care of others, they forget about taking care of themselves. And so these
Yes.
are little reminders, and they can be gifts for others, that you are a self-care giver first. And so
Hmm.
in going to therapy, in doing martial arts and going to the gym and whatever the things that you do, is you're doing those things as a self-caregiver so that you can pour into others.
Yeah.
And so let me not completely shifting gears, but like when
Hmm.
it comes to advocating for mental health, you talked about it some a little earlier. I just want to come back to it. Like,
Hmm.
how do you go about advocating for mental health for others?
Um, just just being very honest with people, um, especially the people that I'm close to, because it's just been so wild these for me personally, like these last couple years, because we I lost my father a couple years back, unsuspected. He had a heart attack. So I've
Mm,
talked about this before. So um it was just a lot of stuff that was just like thrown on top of me in a blink of an eye. So it was like, we're sitting here talking one day about whatever, because it was a weird day. We had it was a bad like rainstorm, it was a flood, and it was just like all this crazy stuff happening, and then the next night he was gone.
oh
So it was just
wow.
like, yeah, it was just like, whoa, like, wait, what? Like we were literally just talking not even like 2-3 hours ago, and now you're gone. So it was a lot of I guess you want to say responsibilities that was just like placed on top of me, which like with my mom being sick, and helping with her, helping with the house, and also being a husband, and being a father. And it's just been a lot. It's just been a lot to like process, and still process to this day. So I just think like, okay, I have to be strong, because I have a lot of people, depending on me. So what do I need to be stronger? So it's like, well, I know I have to be mentally stronger, Because if I'm not mentally stronger, there's no way in hell I can be physically stronger. So
Yeah.
just just taking my personal experiences from like with training. I'm like I'm always training, even at home. Like in my room I have now, there's like mats on the floor, so I'll come in here and work out, or if I can make it to the gym, I'm at the gym. And I just keep telling people, like, dude, you have to find something to get your mind off of whatever's bothering you. Yeah, granted, it's not like a permanent solution, but that hour, 2 hour, 3 hours that you're not thinking about that stuff, it's just going to make you feel so much better. So I was like, I was like, I'd rather be tired from training and going to the gym versus being tired sitting in the room thinking about my problems all day.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be
Yeah.
tired for something, I'd rather be tired for what I want to be tired for. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
I always tell people, like, yeah, like I don't know everything. I'm not a therapist or anything of the sort, but I do have ears and I do like to listen. So if if people want to talk, they come talk. And they just be real. Like, I mean, I just need to vent. All right, I'll sit back and just let you talk. If you want advice, I'll give advice. If you want my opinion, I'll give my opinion. But if you just want to sit here and vent and get everything out, okay, do it. If this is what you need, bro, I'm here. Like, oh man, you got your own problems. Yeah, so but they're my problems.
mm-hmm.
I'll deal with my problems when I deal with my problems. Right now, you are a friend in need, so come on, unload. As they say, trauma dump, and get it all out. Whatever can help you feel better. That I know that you will be here tomorrow. By all means, do it. So I don't
Yeah.
want to hear. I would hate to get a phone call or see a Facebook post about a friend of mine's committing suicide because of their depression. Because I've almost been down that road. I've dealt with suicidal tendencies, and it's nothing that I talk about a lot. I've talked about it on my podcast a couple times, but it's just one of those things where you mention it, it's almost seem like you're still the bad guy when you bring it up,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, oh, why would you do that? Why would you think about killing yourself? You know, what about everybody else? Well, that's the problem. I'm always worried about everybody else. I'm not worried
Yeah.
about myself
Yeah.
in these situations. And that's what people don't see. Like, they always want to say, like, oh, this person was a good person or a nice person or a wonderful person. I would never thought they would do that. You don't know what people going through behind closed doors. So if I ever when I hear about people who committed suicide, some people was like, oh, why would they do that? Or they're like, oh, he's a coward. They're a coward. They took the easy way out. I'm like, unless you've been in that situation where it seemed like that's the only outlet that's going to be the right one, you don't have nothing to say. Nothing to say. Like, it's a dark path. It's a very, 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 very scary dark path. Because that's what the main thing you think about. Like, okay, I have a wife, I have two young daughters, I have a sick mother. What would I look like leaving them by themselves?
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, to me, when I think about suicide, it's not a selfish act. It's just you worry about so much other stuff, and it's just like when you feel like you can't deal with it or help these people that you supposed to be helping, you feel worthless. So that's kind of like the only outlet you can think about at the time. So, but like I said, I'm
Yeah.
so
And when
happy
it
that I found what I found to keep me on this side as long as possible.
Most definitely. And you said a couple of things. First of all, definitely sending condolences, for your father. And the other thing that you said too is that oh, it might have slipped my mind when I was thinking about something else. What did you say?
I know I could be a little
But
long-winded.
oh, I know what it was. You were describing some things, and the thing that I want to point out is like this is why self-care is so important, because you were talking about the different things that you have to do to get things off your mind. And so one of the things that I say is that self-care is like for those individuals who go to therapy, self-care is before, during, and after therapy. Because if anything that I've learned, and especially when I used to work in the emergency room, the call center, telesite, is in those wee hours in the night. It's after 5. It's on the weekend. It's when people, when I say when things will come up, when people are dealing with the most. And so if no one doesn't have an outlet, or they don't go to the emergency room, or they don't call the call center or crisis center, if none of those things are, if they don't feel that they can. And you did a wonderful job of sharing like what can go through a person's mind, because for those individuals who've never experienced it, they really don't understand the emotional pain. I mean, it's like it's beyond distress. It's the
Yeah.
emotional pain that you're going through. And for some, I'm going to say this, because I've seen it too, in that, you know, let's say someone calls a crisis center, of course, the number one goal is to get them the help. And but for some people, sometimes living is just too much for them. And then how can anyone say living is the best thing where you don't even know what they have to go through, and you can't even change what they're going through, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
in their environment. And I'm just saying this just so that people can have an understanding of what someone may be going through. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then it's not selfish for those individuals, because they're just in so much pain.
Yeah.
And it's like you have found, like you said, an outlet, of what you can do to help, move the emotions, move the energy, to move it in a different way, to maybe even think about it in a different way. And so I know those individuals who you have come across that have been very helpful. And then the other thing that you said that I want to point out is that, because you were saying that you don't mind helping people if they need to, I can't remember if you used the word trauma
Yeah.
dump.
Trauma dump. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is a good example of what I say, like when it comes to having social sacred circles where someone can go to someone else. And this is like, you are the perfect example of why it's important for everyone to have self-care rituals, so that we can be there for others, because of the fact you're dealing with your own stuff. And of course, and even if you weren't dealing with your own stuff, when someone comes to you with their trauma wound, there's something energetically that happens to us. Like, I didn't realize that as a therapist. Another name of it can be how what is it called? Secondary trauma.
Hmm.
But it's energy. You know what I'm saying? It's No one talks about the energy of it. I didn't know that I needed to ground myself as a therapist early in my career. They didn't
Hmm.
teach us that. But my whole point is that you have rituals and practices that help you with yourself, and then also that helps you where you can help others. And that's what being a self caregiver is all about. And then
Hmm.
whatever you do after you're able to help someone, so that you can make sure that you're centered and grounded as well. And so I think that that's really important. And that's why self care, being a self caregiver, is important. Because how can we truly be there for others if we're not, like if you're not taking care of yourself?
Yeah. Got to. You have to take care of yourself, because it's it's I don't know. I don't understand why is that's so overlooked. Where it's like, I gotta get up and do this. I gotta go take care of this. I gotta go take care of that. I'm like, well, you have to take care of yourself first.
Hmm.
Like, like, because you're just gonna make yourself more mad when you just pour out every ounce of yourself, and you're out for whatever reason. You get sick, or whatever happens, and you're just gonna beat yourself up even more, because it's like, oh man, I can't help take care of XYZ because I'm sick and blah blah blah. You're just gonna make yourself worse. Like, no, you gotta take those time out to take care of yourself. Like you said, that's self caregiver. And for people who thinking that it has to be, I guess you want to say, as monumental as going to the gym every single day or picking up a martial art, it can be as small as a hobby,
Yes.
doing puzzles, crossword puzzles, something that's not social media based,
Mhm.
like something that can distract you from electronics or from your phone for an hour or two. That's why me personally, I love gym and training, because I leave my phone in my locker. I have my watch, I have my headphones, listen to my music, but that's about far as it goes. Like, if I'm training, I'm not worried about who's on that phone. I'm not worried about who's calling. I'm like, only person who can get through to me is during training is my wife, which is right next to me because she trains too, or my mother because she has my youngest daughter. If guys, like, you can ask anybody from 6:30 for Tuesday and Thursdays, from I say 5:30 to 8:30, you cannot reach me. I am busy. Like, I'm busy. After that, maybe. But yeah, you gotta take that time out to take care of yourself. If it's from writing, like I said, I do martial arts, I draw, I paint, I do a lot of stuff to keep myself busy, because I know how bad that dark place is, and I'm not trying to go back. So whatever I can to not do that is I'm going to do it. So
Yeah, and those things are really, really, really important. And I know that sometimes in the mental health field, and it's gotten better. Sometimes it may depends on who you go to, where you go. But as a whole, because you had mentioned art, and I can remember younger in my career, there's art therapy, and so now I'm not gonna say now, but sometimes some people in the mental health film and say, oh, well, you need to go to an art therapist. No, you don't. You know what I'm saying? You can do your own art. You know what I'm saying? Or people would like to say, oh, well, it's therapeutic, but it's not therapy. My thing is, if it's therapeutic, it's something that's going to help you.
yeah.
It doesn't always need to be, like therapy based. And I'm not against therapy or anything like that, because I'm a therapist myself. The thing is, I want people to have choice, and I want people to know there
Yeah.
are so many different outlets, because what I've seen is that sometimes the focus can be so much on the therapy piece of it. And even though I would say a well rounded therapist will be able to introduce or to let a person know maybe what they're already doing, hey, can you hone on this even more so? That these things are the things that's going to help you as well. And my whole point is just saying is that almost, I'll put it like this, things that are healthy for you, do those things, because those are the things that's going to be helpful. And I just don't think that people just know that. And that's another reason why I'm a self-care activist, and all of that, because of the
Mm-hmm.
fact I don't think people really realize sometimes the things that they're already doing can be helpful. They just don't understand like how the mind, the body, and the spirit really works. And I truly
Mm-hmm.
believe when we get a basic understanding, it's almost like we really do need to go back to biology, biology and psychology, and put them all in one. It's like, this is how it works. And like,
Yeah.
there are some things that, like normalize when certain things happen. Like you were dealing with a lot, when your father died and had so much pressure on you and things of that sort. And let's just say if you didn't have the tools that you have, what could have happened. Even if
Oh
what could have
yeah.
happened, to be honest, that would have been normal, because
Mm-hmm.
it was too much for your nervous system. The nervous system, it cannot withstand a whole lot. That's for anybody. It's not about being weak or not strong enough. The nervous system is not made up for that. So this is why we need these internal trainings, as well as the external trainings as well. And actually, like going to the gym, it's both. It's an
Yeah.
internal and an external training.
Yeah. It's definitely is. And I was having a conversation with my wife. This was a while ago. So like, like I said, I use art as therapy as well. So like, in my room now, I have like all my paintings and stuff that I've done so far. And I got a couple things I'm working on now. And it's one specific piece that I have. I did a painting of Erica Badu, and it took me off and on about a year to finish. And that like to this day I can't look at that picture. As much as
Okay.
I love it, as much as I've put so much time into it, it's just because of everything that was happening while I was painting
Yeah.
that painting. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that was like, yeah, that was my trauma dump, that painting. So like,
Mm-hmm.
because I was in a bad spot in my marriage. It was just a lot of stuff going on. It was just like I was just completely done. And I was just kept telling myself like I need to, like, once I finish this painting, I need to figure out what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I didn't want to finish this painting because I didn't want to think about what was next. Like, okay, I don't want, this to lead into divorce because that's where it was heading. The stuff, with my mom and my dad, it was just like, what? Like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? And it's like I just kept going back and like, okay, I'll walk past my room and it's like that painting would just be staring there unfinished. I'm like, all right, man, we got to finish this painting.
Mm-hmm.
We got to. As much as I hate looking at it, because I've been looking at it for so long, and it's like I need to finish it. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
once I finished it, it was crazy. It was like I was in the process of finishing that painting, and I was right in the midst of testing for my next belt, which is my brown belt, which I am, the rank I'm in now. So I was like, I need to put all my focus into my test, this painting, nothing else. Once I get these two things out the way, I'll be able to deal with everything else. So luckily, I did. I was able to finish it. I got passed my test, and I was able to handle everything a lot better. So we worked through our problems. We go through stuff because that's just marriage. So, but we're better off than where we was that past year because it was bad. But yeah, if it wasn't for the stuff that I do to I guess you want to say distract myself, it could have been so much worse. Could have been so much worse.
Yeah. And I would say to allow you to work through yourself, because
Yeah.
that's what those things do,
Mhm.
the painting and the jitsu, it allows you to work through yourself. It's an energy that moves. And again, when I was in training, so, a couple of decades ago now, they didn't talk about, like the energy centers, when it
Mhm.
comes to our body, when it comes to our being. And people really just don't have an understanding of that. So that's why it's so important for us not to just talk, but to be able to move. And even in painting, you're moving the energy, you're moving your hand. And I'm not a painter, but I can just imagine of what someone goes through. I know a painter, and they do a lot, and that's what they do, is things can get intense in their mind. And they create a whole lot of paintings when it comes to that. And
Yeah.
so the main thing is in being a self-caregiver, just with all of us in dealing with life. And like I say, I look at mental health challenges not related to a mental illness. It's dealing with life, to be honest. We
Yeah.
all experience something, but we need to have different outlets so that we can work through it, because those are the things that's going to be helpful. And one thing I discovered too is that it's good to be able to have people in your lives, but they're going to always come a time it's just going to be you. It's going to always come in time it's just going to be you. And so we
Mhm.
need to be able to fall back, to ourselves, for ourselves, to be able to work through. And so is there anything else you like to leave our listeners with before we end?
Um Only thing I can say is like that book I said, The Alchemist. I highly I'll send you the name of the author, so because I can't remember right now. But yeah, that's a book I would highly recommend everyone read. It's basically understanding your purpose and living, and quote unquote living in your legacy, which a lot of people, once I feel like if they were able to find that, they'll be able to handle a lot of stuff, situations better. um yeah, just take, like you said, take care of yourself. If you're ever in a moment where, if you get some time by yourself and you're always like, I'm running around for everybody else, just sit down and ask yourself, like, what have I done for myself in the past day or two? If you say nothing, you have to change that right then and there. So find that outlet. If it's gym, if it's working out, if it's being creative, if it's just reading, if it's starting a podcast, vlogging, whatever you can to get yourself out of that bad spot, I just say do it. Put all your time and focus into it. Because you put all your time and focus on everything negative, at least do something productive. And I promise you, just like how I started my podcast, I didn't know nothing about it. Nothing about doing a podcast. I was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. And here we are now. So if that's not a big example, I don't know what is. So, but
It
yeah,
most definitely is. Most
that's what I
definitely is.
leave.
Wait,
Just take care of yourself, everybody.
well, it's definitely been a pleasure in speaking with you,
Yes, ma'am. Likewise.
and I know that the audience is definitely have something that they can take away from it as well. And so, for everyone who's listening, again, this is Sharon from the Self-Care You podcast. We're on Spotify and Anchor, and so go and listen to this podcast and make sure you share it as well, because I know even if you're not experiencing any mental health challenges or distress or anything like that yourself, you may know someone who is, but at the end of the day, just like Lamar just said, we need to be taking care of ourselves on a daily basis. And so this is what this podcast is all about, is to self-care you.